So my name is Dixon. I'm the account manager at Bytespeed for West Virginia, and we're located in Minnesota. That's where our headquarters is, and most of our employees, we have about 75 employees, and probably 70 of them are in Minnesota. 5 of them remotely around the country, but most of us are right here in Minnesota. So our presentation is called All About Esports, and that's with Glenville State University and Bytespeed. My name's Dixon. Like I just said, representing Bytespeed, and with Glenville State University, Logan Harrison is our esports coach. So he'll be representing them. Kind of a general layout for what we're going to plan, or what the presentation will look like, I suppose, is intro. We'll both intro ourselves, and then we'll just kind of run through the benefits of having an esports program, the benefits of having one, mostly for the students. That's kind of I was putting the presentation together, and that seems to be where I like to think about what the benefits are. So most of them are student benefits and how it helps students who are thinking about esports and things like that, and why it's a good decision for programs to make. So we'll go through that. And then Logan will talk a bit about how they started the program at Glenville State University, some problems they had, things he wished he knew when he was starting that he knows now, and he'll just kind of run through his process of starting a program, going from zero to up and running and doing tournaments and all kinds of events and everything like that. And then after that, I'll probably talk a little bit more about Bytespeed and what we do to kind of help through that process, go through some different things that we offer, and then we'll answer some questions, and that should be about it. So I'll get us started here. So there's me, territory manager for West Virginia at Bytespeed. There's my contact information. Call me anytime. Email obviously works too. I'm on all the socials as well. So if you see me on LinkedIn or Twitter, Facebook, whatever, go ahead and throw me an ad. And then there's Logan, official title is Coordinator of Outdoor Adventure and Esports at Glenville State University in the Student Life Program, and the Esports Head Coach. And I talked to Logan a bit ago. I'm not sure how it ended, but they had some really impressive players, and they were, I think he said they were in the Madden Championship. I'm not sure how they did. That was a while ago, but I know they've had a really impressive program, and it's still really young. Like most programs, it's obviously esports is a very new journey for a lot of colleges and high schools, so still very new. But I know they're having a lot of success early on, and it seems like everything's going great. So there's Logan's information too, if you want to ever give him a call or ask him questions about how they started, or if he's got any advice, anything like that. I know he'd love to sit down and talk with anybody about it. So the most general question you could ask is, why should we care about esports? And I think just that it's massively popular already, and it's getting more popular. It's the fastest growing sport that there is. I just looked at a stat from, I think it was Syracuse, did a study on the most watched sports in America, and number 1 was the NFL for most viewership, our highest viewership, and number 2 was esports. It's bigger than any other sport besides the NFL as far as viewership goes. Baseball, basketball, soccer, all of them. I thought that was a really telling stat. You don't hear about it as much, but people are watching it. People are interested in it, and it deserves a spot. It deserves to be talked about. And when you're talking about sports, I think it absolutely deserves to be mentioned with the traditional ones, the ones you hear about all the time, the big sports. So I thought that was a really cool stat, and obviously new opportunities for students who maybe aren't into traditional sports. They maybe wouldn't be involved if there wasn't an esports program in the social, competitive, academic, professional. I think anytime you can be a part of something, a part of a school, a part of a program, it's always beneficial. You pick up things, you get better at different dynamics and things like that. So if you're just looking at students that maybe wouldn't have been a part of a program if there wasn't an esports program, having one can be massively potential for them. So, and obviously COVID, it's getting better, right? We're getting back to normal. But if something like that were to happen again, having an esports program, I mean, I guess esports is perfectly fit for that. You never want that to happen, but you can play esports in a different state. You can play against people miles and miles away, and there needs to be no contact and things like that. So I think it's going away, but it is good to know that you would still offer a sport if worst came to worst again, that you could have a full esports team, a full program and league run and you could all run it all from the kids' homes or wherever you need to be safe. But I thought that was another cool element of esports that no other sport I would really share, that you don't have to be physically in a room together. And the benefits socially, sense of belonging and community. I mean, everybody's felt this, right? When you're involved in something and you're invested in it, you want to be there. You feel invested, and the retention, students actually come into class and wanting to be there. Logan's calling me on my phone. I hope he can get in. And then the social and emotional learning, the soft skills that you learn in just being a part of a program. You learn of being around people, in the same room. You have a similar goal, and you're working together to accomplish your goals. You learn a lot just by being there. And like I said, a lot of the kids are going to be involved in that wouldn't have otherwise. And then the student engagement, being involved in activities, having ownership of something of the school, feeling like you're really a part of the school, you're a part of this program, and a part of something bigger than yourself. I think it can really help bring kids that maybe wouldn't have had interest in other programs, give them something, an outlet to show ownership of and to really be a part of something. And then competitive, it's growing fast. 18 states already have championships. State championships, and that's up a lot. That number's only going up, and I can't imagine it's not going to be all 50 states in the near future. So as far as that aspect, I just think it's so cool that you can, play other states from your own state. Usually you would have to take a bus to another state if you wanted to play somebody, but in West Virginia, you could play a team in California if you wanted to. On the drop of a hat, you could just sign up to play and join together. And there's no more, how do you want to call it, geographical boundaries. You can play anywhere. The state lines are gone in esports. You can play in any other team in any other state, and it can be grouped more by skill level, I guess, than geography. I think there's a discrepancy in a lot of sports where when you're playing geography-wise, a team that's maybe not as talented or doesn't have as many players can't compete with the larger schools. And here you could play against schools in your own range, I suppose. So it's more competitive that way. I think that's a cool piece anyways. But and it is an outlet for non-traditional athletes. I know a lot of programs, it's just a melting pot for them where we talked to one school where they're like varsity quarterback, the typical popular guy was on the esports program, and other kids that weren't in that popular group, and everybody got along. It was a way for students to meet each other that they would have never hung out. They would have never been around each other in any other way. It brings esports works for traditional athletes and students who aren't interested in the athletes, and there's just no boundary to it really. There's no prototypical esports player. It's everybody out there, and I think it really does a good job of bringing everybody together into a close-knit team. So I think that's a really cool piece of it as well. And obviously you learn skills through working together, teamwork, communication, critical thinking. You're communicating with each other as you're playing. I think as far as communication goes in esports, it's one of the most communicative sports that there is. You're constantly talking to each other and building strategy on the fly as you go. And a lot of other sports aren't like that. There's not a lot of talking in a lot of other sports, and this one you're talking and learning how to communicate quickly and on the fly. And I think that has a benefit in getting good at problem solving and other things too. Academic benefits, just like any other sport, eligibility as motivation always helps. Students want to do well so they can do what they love, and they can show up to practice and be a part of this program. So just like in any other sport, eligibility as motivation seems to always work and have a good impact. Better attendance, when students are having fun at their school and they're a part of the program and they're invested in it. They want to be at school. They want to be where the other students are. I think it absolutely helps attendance, just like any other sport would. And more participation in class builds confidence. I think confidence is key in almost anything you're doing, and I think this really helps build confidence for kids that need something other than traditional sports, that aren't the traditional athlete type, and they need something to belong to. I think this really helps. And now with college scholarships, I think the the way that esports had to grow, I think competitively, was just like any other sport. The colleges started. The colleges are the pioneers, and they build the programs to show that it has value. This is valuable, and we should be doing this. And they have. Colleges built programs. They invested in it. They invested in people and infrastructure, and they really built nice, beautiful programs to get students to want to come there and to show them that, hey, we really believe in this. We think this is a great thing. And now we're offering scholarships, degree programs, all the infrastructure around just having an esports team. And I think that just goes like the trickle down to high school. Then, when a high school is looking at starting a program, it's like, okay, now there's colleges with real programs that have degree opportunities. They're giving out scholarships. It would be a disservice not to have this as an option for some students. Maybe it's not going to be huge right away. It's still really new. And a new program always kind of draws an eye where people will look, and it might be hard to get a lot of engagement right away. But I think with how new it is, it's better to be in there early and learn the program, learn how you want to run the program and how to start it early on, and get really prepared for the future, because I really do think it's going to be, right up there, just how I said earlier, that it's competing with the NFL and the major sports for viewership. I think it's going to be that same route for esports, and I think it's going to be just as popular. And I think there'll be just as many routes for high schools and colleges to really just own their programs and show how the viewership and it can be a sport of the future, I guess, what sports will look like as we move forward. Oops, went the wrong way. Okay, and so this is kind of I'm not presenting right that I have it on the side there. This is a stressful map to look at, but I think it is really helpful. It shows professional routes that esports people involved in esports can take. And I think it just really shows that there are professions in esports. There are a lot of them, and it's growing really quickly. So it's really cool to see what routes you can take if you're interested in esports and involved in esports once you go to college, whether you have a degree or not. Esports is always a professional route to take, and I like to look at trends and where things are going. And I think if you look at the FAMGA companies, the major five or whatever, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, they all have gaming programs. They all have services. They're all shooting to be big in esports. When you see the biggest five companies in our country investing in something, I think that really shows that this is going to be really cool. This is going to be really popular, and it's going to become something that as a part of our normal everyday lives. We may not see it a bunch now. We may not hear about it that much, but I really do think with those companies showing that there's value here, and I mean there's startup companies all over. There's going to be a lot of jobs and opportunities for people who are interested and involved in esports, and I think being involved on an esports team in high school and college is going to have a lot of value. Whatever your degree is, whatever you graduate with your specific degree, moving on to whatever you want to do after college. So, like I said, these are just kind of a throw together of what routes you could possibly take, but it's mainly to display that the routes are endless. You could really go any way with them. And so the relevancy right now, distance education, I kind of talked about that a little bit, talking with COVID and kind of the effect that's had. And with remote learning, a lot of engagement was lost with students, and it was just kind of a tough time for everybody. And now things are coming back. I know West Virginia seemed to be better off than most states, and it was handled very well. And now things seem to be back to normal for the most part. But it's good to know that esports is there as a backup plan. If things go wrong and you have to figure out and trying to play together and figure out the best route, the kids are still going to want to compete and want to do whatever they can. And I think having an esports program to cover your bases for if something weird happens again that no one expects can be really cool and really help when when whatever happens might happen. So the tools are already there. Students using Discord and social media, they're already on those, and that's how you compete and play through these sports. Like I said earlier, you can play from your home with your team. Nobody has to be in the same room, and you can practice whenever you want, and it's not limited by geography. I think that's a really cool feature when a team, if they wanted to practice independently, they could go to their homes after school and they could spend their own free time together playing. That's a lot harder to do when you have to be in the same spot in a facility. If you're practicing baseball or whatever, you can't just pick up and start practicing with your friends. It takes a lot more than just turning on a computer. So I think it really deserves a spot as far as moving forward with the COVID life. And those are just kind of the tools that are already there, and they'll get better, right? They'll grow and mature with the system. But multiple plays away, tournaments and seasons. Obviously, it run a lot like traditional sports in that sense, where there's a season and then there's tournaments, a state tournament in some states. And it's getting pieced together. Every state is kind of on a different page right now, some farther along than others. But the groundwork's being laid, and everyone's figuring it out together. It's not a perfect system, and the picture's not complete yet, but it's getting better every day. And I think as time goes on, it's still early to start a program, and you can be a part of completing the picture and making it a really a full ecosystem of how it all works together. The quick setting, or the getting started quick guide, I just threw this together quickly. There's probably more steps than this, but I just threw this together to just kind of show what it would take to start a program. And then Logan will talk a little bit more about his experience with starting a program and kind of as someone who actually went through it and took all these steps. So talking to administration is step number one, with your principals, athletic directors, IT, and just gauging interest. How do we get this started? Showing them the benefits. We think this is going to be a good idea. We think kids are interested and they'd really like to have this program. So the first step is just talking about it, just seeing if other people would be interested in making the right moves to see if it'd be a good fit. Just bringing it up to the people who would be involved and seeing. I guess you could throw students, and when you say talk to administration, talking to students, see if they'd be interested would also be a good way to do this, to at least take the first step. And then identifying a program sponsor or coach. Really, they would be called the coach, but I think it would be rare to find a coach that knows more about these games than the kids and the players. And that's fine. I don't think there's a whole lot of value in knowing the game better than the kids. I think the value is just being there and being supportive, and just supporting. They're going to know how to play. Kids know more about technology than adults, it seems like, no matter what. And I've stopped competing with them. So I think as long as the person is passionate and shows up, that's about all you need for a program sponsor or a coach. And then looking for a space, I think, is the next most important piece. Obviously, you want to use an existing space, like if you already have a computer lab, a library, makerspace, classroom. Kind of the sizing depends on how much student interest you have right away. Whether that's 3 students, that's kind of the minimum, I would say, to start a program, is having 3, and then you'd want to shoot for that 12, 16, 20. That would obviously be ideal if you could have a large engagement like that. But starting off, a lot of times it's the 3, 6, maybe 12. It just kind of depends. But getting the students and then getting that space reserved and figuring out how to set it up and make it comfortable for the players and make it make sense for everyone. And that just kind of comes with time, seeing what space is available at what time, and when we want to host practices and how tournaments are going to work, and if we're going to, how big we want to go right away. And you can move and grow with it. But finding that first starting space, I guess, is on the list to getting up and running. And then figuring out the stuff, thank you, as far as power, internet, HVAC, and accessibility, figuring out those kind of background things as the space gets up and running. And then hardware needs, computers and consoles, accessories and furniture. And like I said, you can kind of start slow and with the interest, and just see how fast it takes off, and you don't have to go crazy right away and buy the best of everything and outfit this whole huge room. You can you can start at square one and you don't have to go all out right away. And then identifying where the participation will happen. Play VS is probably the biggest, most popular one among states for high schools in America. And there's others too, but Play VS seems like the best spot to start. And talking with them, they set up the league and they run everything and kind of take a lot of the organizational work off of that program sponsor or coach, where they setting up practices and getting a common space for everything to get done, and then figuring out the club structure, how it's going to work, game nights, practice nights, just getting a plan going, and writing some sort of a bylaws, expectations of students, things like that. That none of it really takes too much work, just kind of having a solid footing for when everybody gets together and you start running. And a lot of it can be done on the fly. You don't need a perfect plan. A lot of times you just need to start moving and it'll come as you go. And then holding informational meetings with parents, telling parents about the program that their kids might want to join, and then getting students participating and working together. Yeah, a lot of it's just a moving target. I don't think anything starts, as a finished product. You just have to get going and kind of start making the moves, and then a little bit happens each day, and before you know it, you're off and running, and you have a program and students that are loving it, and just success that you were shooting for. Funding resources is something that is important. That's, where do you find the money? How do you start these? We need computers, we need a space, we need desks or chairs, we need all this stuff. How do we find it? And I think Bytespeed has a great web page. We've kind of pooled together, not just for esports, but any type of project that you'd be working on, different loan or grant opportunities that you can use and apply for to help fund your program and to get the items that you'll need to get up and running. So I would go to Bytespeed's page. It's just resources. I think on the top banner, there's a resources page, and then it's just called funding or grant opportunities, something like that. And I can send a link to in the chat in a little bit here, but that's a great place to start. Varsity Esports Foundation is another great place to look into. I haven't used it too much, but I know they have free courses, a lot of free courses about starting a program, how to find funding, a lot of free information, and they have a service that you can pay for as well, where they'll help you find funding and different things like that. But I'm not too familiar with how that works, but I know they have a lot of free resources, so that might be worth checking out as well. And then, so that was kind of my intro to esports, how it works, student engagement. And then I think we'll pass her off to Logan here. And if he can walk us through what it was like starting a program at the college level, and issues he ran into and things he wish he knew when he started that he knows now, I think that'll give us some great information as to how going from day one, or it just being an idea, to a program that's up and running and having success, and just I think he's a perfect person to walk us through that. Why don't you take it away, Logan?
All right, thank you, Dixon. Hey, everybody. My name is Logan Harrison. I am the.
Oh, your mic might be off.
You're fine, Logan. I don't think Dixon can hear us, though.
Okay. I'm the esports coordinator here at Glenville State College. So we actually just had our.
I'm not hearing anything.
Okay. Well, we just had our first season actually this past year. We did have some success with our first year coming to an end. We made the national championship for Madden, which was pretty exciting. So just to talk a little bit about starting a program. The first thing is, as you guys know, being from West Virginia, we do face some things that other places and other states don't have to deal with internet speeds and things like that being not up to par in a lot of the areas throughout the state. Well, in saying that, there are ways that you can kind of work with people and try to work around and get the proper equipment to where it supports what your internet speed is. So that's really something that's been able to help me a lot with going through Bytespeed and Gravity Gaming. So I actually met Dixon last year at 2 years ago now, at this same event, and we were able to form a relationship here. Prior to me speaking with him, I was probably doing what most people would do, digging into how much computers would cost as pre-builts, going through Dell, going through big name companies. or, looking into possibly building them myself. After speaking with Bytespeed a little bit and getting an idea of what they can do, they were really able to help me out with all aspects of setting up what I needed to succeed. So for the PC setup, so the requirements for internet speed, Sarah, you have a good question there. It kind of differs from game to game. So depending on which game you're playing, kind of depends on which area you're at. Everything requires a different amount. Call of Duty, which is an FPS game, is very, very fast paced. So it takes a lot more to pull. Where if you're playing Super Smash Brothers on your Nintendo Switch, you're not going to need as much requirement for your internet speed. So it all depends on the title. Very good question, though. So whenever you're going into actually making a team, the biggest thing you can do is get the administration to help you. The administration is key, because it was about a 1.5-year process here for me to get esports off the ground. We started out with a gaming club, just to get an idea of how many students would be interested and who would really want to, see. Well, I had a tremendous group, esports club. We had 30-some people sign up. We hosted little tournaments on campus and things, just to see if we could get more kids interested. And the tournaments really started taking off to where we were getting, an additional 10 to 15 kids who would show up just to see what we do whenever we're gaming at different areas. So even if you want to start at a club level, just something to give the kids something to do. Dixon touched a little bit on how it brings in a bunch of different communities. Well, here on the college level, it's funny, you come in here and you're going to see, your stereotypical gamer that you see, you're going to see a smaller guy who probably has Doritos and Mountain Dew in his hands, and he's over there playing his game. Well, sitting right next to him is this 6'6", 260-pound middle linebacker, and they're both sitting there playing Minecraft. And it's great because you see people from all life coming together for one thing. And it's tremendous to kind of see that thing come together. I've seen relationships with kids who probably would have never been friends nor talked to each other had they been not brought together by esports. So a little bit about esports and collegiate in West Virginia. So I know that things are starting to take off the ground a little bit in West Virginia. I know they were talking about getting together a larger scale West Virginia esports championship. I'm not sure the current status on that, but I'll find out a little bit more on that because I am interested in keeping up with it. If anybody has questions about setting up their esports program or just would like to get some ideas, bounce some off of me, you can reach me. I work at Glenville State College. Reach me at 304-462-6418, or you can also reach me by my email, which is logan.harrison@glenville.edu. I'd be more than happy to help you with anything. Travel, go to a lot of different schools. If there are schools that have esports programs or starting them, I have no problem going in and speaking with your students, introducing myself, and maybe bringing a couple of my players along just to give them an idea of, the different kinds of people that can be involved in esports. Can anybody think of any questions that they might have for me? Yes. So actually, the Esports League for K-12 in West Virginia was being set up prior to COVID. Can you guys hear me? My microphone's cutting in and out for some reason there. Oh, there we go. Okay. So Virginia, they were setting it up to where there was going to be a statewide tournament for teams to compete in prior to COVID happening. I'm not sure the current status on that. I can actually call and check. I have a phone number for a gentleman that works for the State Board of Education who could probably help me out a little more in depth for that. Thank you, Dixon, for posting that for me. But I'd be more than happy to help anybody set up any program that they could have. Even if your kids would be interested in coming and having just a tour of my facility, we can set that up with the admissions department, and you guys can bring your whole group of kids up here to see exactly what collegiate esports is, what kind of opportunities they could have past high school, and just really get an idea of, it's not just video games anymore. It's not just sitting in a basement. I do give out scholarships for the kids that are on my team. We have one of the larger teams that I've ran into in competition in NACE, which is basically the Esports. And in doing that, I've noticed that our team's significantly bigger because we're a first-year team who already fields multiple rosters. Most esports teams usually try to focus on 2 to 3 games. We kind of came out of the gate with a lot more than that. From where we had that club aspect ahead of time, we kind of knew where we would have kids, what they wanted to compete in, and I knew that I had to have that opportunity there for them. So whenever you see your first competition and you get to see the kids in your towns compete, you really see what I mean about just the camaraderie that they have amongst each other. It's a nice thing to see. I do come from a traditional athletics background. I'm also the assistant track and field coach here. So I've dealt with, traditional athletics as well as esports. And there's a lot of similarities, but there's also a lot of differences. Communication is huge in esports. It brings a lot of people out of their shell. You get the kids that are really quiet, and it really helps them to expand themselves and learn a little bit more about everything. So, Sarah, when recruiting for a team, for my candidates, what I look for is a kid who has drive, someone who's determined, and it really helps that, they're able to keep on topic. But that isn't necessarily something that breaks the cake, because a lot of people there, they can't stay on top of things in high school because of, their friends are there, this and that. But when they come to college, I think a lot of things change when you come to college. I've seen kids who barely got by in college, who barely got by in high school, who then come to college and have instantly better GPAs because it's more focused on things that they want to study. So what I do traditionally when recruiting is I contact the kids. I have them come onto campus. They will meet some members of my team, and usually they'll exchange, their gamer tags back and forth so they can play outside. But they'll actually sit down and usually play while they're in here if they have the time to do that. If not, we set it up to where they can play with the team outside of time and really get that feel for it and see how they rank up against the other people on the roster. I don't cut people. So if you want to come out for the team, you're more than welcome to. You may not be a varsity person right off the bat, but the whole point of this team is to make you better and continue to practice to get better. Just because you don't start off as necessarily the best person doesn't mean you can't become that. So we really try to focus on making everybody in all aspects of their life. But so, as many of you know, Glenville is like one of the smaller schools throughout the state. So we deal with the problems that a lot of you guys did when I was setting up things to get everything ran here. I worried about internet speed. I worried about, can I get the technology I need here? I worried about a space. What am I going to be able to do? When we first started and we just had the club, we were in a very, very, very small meeting room and a very old building, but it done its purpose. We were able to get the computers that we had available there. They were old. They weren't fast. They weren't really anything that could process of what we needed, but we made work what we had. But through doing that and growing and being able to see I pitched that we could get a bigger space. Well, now we're in a almost 2,000 square foot area that is actually used to be our old bookstore. And I was able to purchase 32 custom PCs through Gravity Gaming because of being able to get all these kids interested. I had kids that were coming to the college for esports before we had an established team. So showed the administration that there is a huge upside here for esports for growth. And that's the same thing in high school. I know that there's a lot of issues where, kids, they don't necessarily want to be at school every day. It gives them an incentive. I was one of those people, I played sports, I did those things, but I had a dead season. I played football and then I ran track. During that middle section, I did nothing. And it was hard, to get that drive to go to school every day when I knew I didn't have a game coming up. I mean, why do I need to be there? But if I would have had, esports there, it would have gave me something to focus my mind on, something to keep me in that area. when COVID happened, all traditional athletics basically closed down at the college. Well, we were still operating at full capacity. I mean, we were able to move, we were able to compete, we were able to do everything. I mean, I wouldn't say normal, but as close to normal as you can get as far as esports goes. And, you know, that's been a kind of something that the school could kind of focus on a little bit. A lot of kids that we'd never seen in here before were starting to show up a little bit just to watch us play because there was nothing else for them to watch. And, you know, some of them never left. They're still here. They still show up. They're still here all the time. So it's really neat to see that kind of stuff happen. I don't really have a whole lot else that I need to cover that I can think of. If anybody's got any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to, you know, answer anything. Other than that, I think I've got it pretty much wrapped up that I can say there. Okay.
Thank you both so much for presenting on this. It's very interesting area that I've really not heard much about before. So it's
yeah, thank you, Sarah.
Yeah. I am curious though, follow them on here, audio. Minecraft, how can Minecraft be a competitive game?
Okay, so Minecraft is actually not competitive. So just because we have the esports area, we don't just use it for competition. Games are fun. So we like to really have fun as much as possible. We have virtual reality headsets in here that we can do our fitness stuff on. Requirement to be on the team. It's 3 hours a week, and it's just a general fitness requirement. I let them do VR gaming stuff to move, just to have fun. I encourage them to play games that are non-competitive, like Minecraft, like ones that they don't compete in necessarily, just so they can relax.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Having a teenager who plays Minecraft and would be really interested in a program like this on the academic level, I was like, well, wow, how can that be? That's really, really interesting though. So
yeah. So actually a lot of parents come in to the esports arena here on campus, and they're in awe at the fact that, you know, video games has expanded to the point where their child could get, you know, an athletic scholarship to play video games.
Yeah. Oh, I did have a question too about when you started this. Did you get was this a hard sell to your administration?
It was a hard sell.
How did you convince them to go with it?
Numbers don't lie. That's the best way to put it. Numbers don't lie. I had, you know, kids who I was doing events on campus with kids and showing them, you know, this is what the kids want to do. I was showing them statistics that I found online that showed, you know, it's the fastest growing sport in America. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, the Overwatch World Championship had more viewers than the Super Bowl. That's not something that can be taken lightly.
That's true. That's true.
But as far as like a global level goes, I expect esports to continue growing. The high school level, I would really want to see West Virginia start to expand on that heavily. Going to try to reach back out and see if I can figure out what the status is for, you know, the K-12 league here in West Virginia. I'd like to, you know, get involved with a little bit, maybe get on the board or something, just to kind of help spread it around a little bit. But if Sarah, if you or somebody you know wants me to come and speak with the kids at their college, at their school, I would be more than happy to do that.
Oh, that's really interesting. My daughter goes to Morgantown High. I don't know if they have that right now, but yeah, my sister also teaches there, so I'll inquire and see if that's something they'd like to do, because I'm sure there are plenty of students there that would be inspired by this.
Definitely
as a career path.
And you know,
really
people literally think, you know, with career paths, with gaming, the natural instinct is, hey, they're going to be a professional gamer. They're going to be one of those video streamers on YouTube, or they're going to be sitting on their couch doing nothing. Well, there's a lot more things to that. There's commentators. There's people that run the video. There's AV people. There's the people who wire everything up. There's all aspects of life. There's people who literally write the scripts for the commentary for for things. I have 2 kids on scholarship who don't play games for me. The one kid runs AV for me. That's all he does. He makes sure our audio and visual does not drop while we're in game. Another kid is my network guy. All he does is make sure our network stays on pace. He monitors each of the computers to make sure that they're not having any sort of problems, and that's what I have them for.
Wow, and those skills are transferable to lots of different fields too. That's great.
Yeah, last year, just because we had some time and we had a lot of extra Ethernet cable, I taught the kids how to make Ethernet cables out of a giant box of Ethernet cables. So we were cutting off the ends, and I just taught them how to do it. And that's something they'll forever know how to do now. So
yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Let me just double check, make sure there aren't any questions in the Q&A. I don't see any. If anybody in the audience on this has any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. Or if you'd like to jump in the audio conversation, just put it in the chat and I'll add you. But other than that, thank you guys so much for presenting us. Fascinating field.
Thank you.
So, and we will have this presentation on our website within the next week. So, and of course, we have the networking tool with this expo, and then the expo itself. I think Bytespeed's over there, right, Dixon? I don't know if you can hear me, but you can check in there. But yeah, you can learn more about what they all are doing there. And I guess that's probably it. Thanks so much for everybody attending. All right.
Well, have a good day.
You too.